Smoke rises from burning buildings. The citizens of Austin, Texas run desperately from the hordes of vicious infected humans driven to murderous violence by a mutated strain of the cordyceps fungus. Police are overwhelmed almost immediately, and when the military is dispatched to take control of the situation, things only get worse. In the panic, they can't tell the infected from the innocent, and they gun down innocent people in droves. Amongst all the chaos, one man, Joel Miller, and his young daughter Sarah are just trying to survive. Hours ago, he was receiving a watch from his daughter as a birthday present and worrying about whether his latest construction contract would fall through. But all that falls away when an infected, formerly one of Joel's neighbors, starts bashing up against his back door and trying to get in. When the deranged man breaks in, Joel is forced to shoot him in the head to protect Sarah. Then begins the escape. Joel's brother, Tommy, has come to pick them up in his truck. Things seem like they might be okay until the car is sideswiped by another panicked driver during the chaos. The trio is forced to go out on foot, with Joel carrying Sarah and Tommy protecting them with a revolver. All the while, the infected surge around them. But as the military's violence and paranoia increases, tragedy strikes. Sarah doesn't make it through the night. Over the next 20 years, the world changes beyond the point of recognition. In the US, the fungus spreads beyond containment, wiping out and infecting most of humanity. What remains is under martial law and guarded settlements kept in line by brutal military rule. Living is hard, and anyone who steps out of line is executed. In those 20 years, a rebellion known as the Fireflies also pops up, and Tommy and Joel split, with Tommy joining up with the Fireflies as a grieving Joel becomes ever more world-weary. He's now a career smuggler, working with his partner Tess in the quarantine zone of Boston's North Side. When we meet them again, they're going after Robert, a connected North Side illicit goods dealer who promised them a cache of weapons before double-crossing them and selling them to someone else. While trying to get payback, things descend into violence as the local military police battle the Fireflies, and Robert sends his armed goons after Joel and Tess. When they reach Robert after gunning their way through his men, they discover that he also dealt with an old friend of Joel's, Marlene, who just so happens to be the leader of the Fireflies and the one who bought their guns. Joel and Tess aren't too happy about their guns being sold off, but Marlene makes a counteroffer. She'll give Joel double what he was looking for if he agrees to smuggle some unusual cargo across the country, a teen girl named Ellie. After some persuasion, Joel and Tess take the deal, and they try to sneak Ellie out of the quarantine zone. But in the process, they're attacked by more infected, including the truly monstrous clickers, a late-stage form of infection, as well as more military police. During the process of the escape, they also make a shocking discovery. Ellie is infected, but she hasn't turned into a vicious zombie. She seems to have some kind of natural immunity, one that the Fireflies want to synthesize into a cure. Joel and Tess aren't just protecting a little girl, they're protecting humanity's hope for survival. But in the process of escape, tragedy strikes again. Tess is infected. Not wanting to become a monster, she sacrifices herself by distracting the military police while Joel and Ellie escape. They're on their own now, and they need to find Tommy, Joel's long-lost brother and former Firefly member, to help them find the Firefly base where they can make the cure. The first thing the duo needs is a working car, a rare and highly prized commodity in this awful future. For this, they visit the compound of another old friend of Joel's, a paranoid, trap-loving survivalist named Bill, who has turned the town of Lincoln into a barricaded, booby-trapped fortress. But in the process of making their way to Bill, they drew in a huge number of vicious infected. Joel, Ellie, and Bill run frantically through the compound trying to avoid the swarms of infected. Joel calls in his favors with Bill, making a deal to gather the right auto parts from around Lincoln to put together a working car. During their trips to different key locations around the town, from the bar to the church-turned-armory, they face off against more infected, as well as Bill's many traps. Things come to a head when they try to find a working car battery from the local abandoned high school, where they encounter, fight, and barely survive a bloater, a huge and highly dangerous form of multi-year cordyceps infection. After surviving the bloater's onslaught, Joel, Ellie, and Bill make their way to another one of Bill's safe houses. There they come upon an upsetting sight. Frank, a man who had once been romantically involved with Bill, had died right here after being infected. It's an upsetting moment for all involved. But with these tasks accomplished, they actually have the parts needed to put together a working car. After Bill uses his mechanic skills to fix up the car, an old truck, Joel and Ellie drive away, never to see Bill again. Joel and Ellie drive off until they reach Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where a gang of vicious bandits run them off the road and wreck their car in hopes of robbing and killing them. Joel and Ellie are forced to take refuge in some of the city's many abandoned buildings and fight back, as the hordes of bandits armed with guns come after them. In this new world, greedy and desperate humans can be just as deadly as the infected. After escaping from the initial ambush squad, they pass through a hotel swarming with more bandits and infected, including a new type of infected known as the Stalkers, before eventually reaching the city's financial district. Here, they meet two young survivors, Sam and Henry. Together, they help them figure out a plan to assault one of the bandit watchtowers at night while avoiding the roving military Humvee that the bandits have been using to chase them. But things don't go entirely to plan, and Joel and Ellie wind up getting washed down the Allegheny River. When the two eventually come to, they find that Sam and Henry had saved them from drowning, and so they decide to remain as a team as they navigate the Pittsburgh sewers in hopes of finding a radio tower in the city. The sewers are treacherous and filled with the infected, including clickers, implying that the infected had been trapped down there for quite some time. Eventually, they leave the sewers and make their way through the Pittsburgh suburbs, which seem mercifully light on infected. The same cannot be said for the bandit group known as the Hunters, who suddenly pop out from all around and start attacking Joel, Ellie, Henry, and Sam, intent on killing them all. Luckily, the four band together and are able to fight back against the Hunters, even turning the tables on a dangerous sniper and the persistent Humvee. But their fight comes at a cost as the sound of gunfire attracts another deadly horde of infected to their location. Joel and Ellie are able to survive the onslaught, but Henry and Sam sadly aren't so lucky. But Joel and Ellie can't afford to wait around and mourn. They need to keep moving. Months later, they're out of Pennsylvania altogether and are instead in Jackson County, Wyoming, still searching for Joel's estranged brother, Tommy. There they also find a self-sustaining town powered by a hydroelectric dam, where Tommy and his wife have been living. Things are tense between Joel and Tommy after so long apart, with Joel asking Tommy to take Ellie off his hands and Tommy wanting to maintain his new life here. Things come to blows when Tommy gives Joel a photo of his dead daughter, Sarah, as a gift. But this brotherly dispute is interrupted by bandits suddenly attacking the settlement. During the chaos that unfolds, Ellie, feeling rejected and used, takes off on one of the settlement's horses and rides to a nearby abandoned ranch house. Together, Joel, Tommy, and the other people of the settlement manage to repel the bandits before Tommy and Joel ride off to find Ellie, with Joel explaining to Tommy Ellie's true significance as a potential vaccine against the cordyceps brain infection. When they reach the ranch house and find Ellie, they're attacked by another gang of bandits. The battle is hard, but Joel and Tommy, at least partially repairing their fractured relationship, are able to work together and defeat them all. Ellie and Joel have a tense heart-to-heart before they start heading back to the settlement, and during the journey, Joel has a change of heart. He no longer wants to leave Ellie with Tommy. He'll take her to her destination. Tommy, drawing upon his knowledge from when he was a Firefly, tells Joel about a Firefly base in the University of Eastern Colorado. The brothers say their farewells, and Joel and Ellie continue on their journey toward Colorado, riding off on one of Tommy's horses, which Ellie names Callus. Quite some time later, the duo arrives at the University of Eastern Colorado, where things seem quiet, too quiet. Joel and Ellie enter the large and dilapidated building, only to find that there are seemingly no fireflies inside, just a bunch of infected, roaming around looking for new prey. As Joel kills the infected, he and Ellie make their way out into the university's courtyard, where they find a small gaggle of monkeys have been let loose and are roaming around freely. Ellie and Joel are happy to see them, having no idea their true significance. Joel enters another building on campus which is completely infested with infected and has spores floating around in the air, causing him to put on his gas mask for protection. After defeating the infected, including clickers and a bloater, he's able to hook up to a generator to open the university's automatic gates and allow Ellie and Callus through. Ellie wonders why the Fireflies would keep the infected so close, and Joel suspects that perhaps they were using the infected's presence as a deterrent against bandits and raiders, just like Bill did. This, however, doesn't turn out to be the case. They enter and begin exploring the university's science building, still finding no fireflies. But Joel hears some suspicious noises and remarks that he and Ellie should stay cautious because they aren't alone in here. There are more feral monkeys going ape in the labs, but still no fireflies. Not living ones anyway. They find the dead body of a firefly scientist in an office, clutching an audio recording that tells them the fireflies abandoned this base after some experiments went terribly wrong, and the survivors have gone to St. Mary's Hospital in Salt Lake City, Utah. The firefly scientists had been performing experiments on the monkeys to discover more about the cordyceps brain infection, but the infected monkeys escaped and started biting the scientists, causing the infection to spread wildly among their ranks. Just as Joel and Ellie are about to leave, they're ambushed by a new and dangerous threat: cannibals, gangs of survivors who eat other survivors to survive. Joel and Ellie discover just how dangerous this group is when they quickly overwhelm and surround them, causing the duo to fight with all they have if they want to not become that night's dinner. They manage to hold their own, but the fight isn't without casualties. A cannibal tackles Joel next to the balcony, and the two of them fall off it. The cannibal dies from the fall, and Joel is seriously injured on a piece of jagged rebar. Ellie is able to help guide him along and kill off some of the cannibals along the way. The two escape, taking off on Callus's back, but Joel's wounds prove too much for him, and he passes out from the pain and the blood loss, then falls off the back of the horse. Sometime later in winter, Joel and Ellie are taking refuge in the snowy hills of the Rockies. While Joel recovers from his injuries, Ellie has become an adept bow hunter and marksman, hunting deer and rabbits to feed herself and Joel. During one of her hunts, Ellie chases a deer that she wounded with one of her arrows over to an abandoned mining complex. There she runs into a pair of mysterious strangers, a man named David and his friend James. Ellie bargains with the two men, agreeing to give up the deer in exchange for some antibiotics to help treat Joel. James returns to their camp, while Ellie and David stick around until they're suddenly surrounded by a massive horde of infected, including clickers and bloaters. After a long and dangerous fight, Ellie and David are able to defeat the infected before sitting and warming themselves around a campfire. That's when David reveals the truth. He's actually the leader of the cannibals who attacked them at the university, and he wants revenge against Joel for what he did. Immediately, Ellie runs away, taking Callus back to the safe house where Joel has been recovering from his injuries. She gives Joel the antibiotics she bargained for and gets some sleep. The next morning, things get worse. There's a large gang of cannibals outside the safe house, all of whom followed the horse's tracks back to the house. Ellie takes Callus and rides away, trying to distract the cannibals from Joel's location, but the cannibals shoot and kill Callus, leaving Ellie injured and alone out in the cold. She takes refuge in a series of snowy cabins and a sizable winter lodge called the Lakeside Resort, as other cannibals fan out to hunt her. While Ellie is able to take out most of them, she's ambushed and subdued by David. She wakes up in a cage, seeing David and his friends outside the gate feasting on human flesh. But to her surprise, David doesn't want to kill her. He admires her skills and wants to convert her to their cannibal way of life so she can join his gang. Ellie is revolted, and when David reaches through the gate of the cage toward her, she breaks his finger and tries to grab his keys. This fails, and David is furious at her betrayal. He leaves, resolving to kill her in the morning as punishment for killing so many of his men. Meanwhile, Joel wakes up and finds that Ellie is gone. He kills most of the remaining cannibals around the safe house and captures two, torturing them into telling him where their base is and where they might be keeping Ellie. When one of them eventually cracks, he kills them both and sets off on a daring rescue mission into the frozen wastes. David and James decide that time is up and pull Ellie out of her cage. However, as they prepare to kill her to add her to their human meat larder, she distracts them by showing them the infected bite on her arm. While James and David bicker, she grabs the knife they were going to use on her and kills James with it, before hopping off the kitchen table and fleeing for her life, armed with only her switchblade, with David, who is armed with a machete, in hot pursuit. He chases her through the snowy, frostbitten town, while also sending out the rest of his cannibal minions. Ellie proves to be too smart, resourceful, and lethal for them, though, as she gradually isolates and kills the various cannibals, stealing their weapons along the way. However, there's only so much a young girl can do, as David and more of his cannibal reinforcements zero in. Ellie runs into a nearby abandoned restaurant and hides inside, as David, who has the only keys to the building, which is rapidly setting on fire, pursues her. He's the most dangerous and depraved foe she's faced in all of this journey. Ellie tries her best to hide as David stalks her, but unlike most enemies, David is also able to hide and deceive. Ellie feels the dread mount as she sneaks around, knowing that he could pop out at any time. but eventually she gets the jump on him and is able to stab him with her switchblade. Meanwhile, an injured Joel trudges through the snow outside, fighting the rest of the cannibals and trying desperately to find Ellie before it's too late. While in a storeroom, Joel finds Ellie's backpack and more evidence of the gang's cannibalistic crimes against nature. Back in the restaurant, David leaps onto Ellie, physically overpowering her and attempting to strangle her. But in the pivotal moment before she loses consciousness, Ellie grabs David's own machete and kills him with it, refusing to beg as he demands. Joel finds her not long after, crying in rage from the horrors of what she's done. Joel holds and comforts her, and when she calms down, the two set off for Utah. When Joel and Ellie arrive in Salt Lake City after their nightmare of a journey, they're ambushed and knocked out, then taken to St. Mary's Hospital, the new de facto base for the remains of the Fireflies. While Joel recovers from his injuries in one of the hospital beds, the Firefly doctors prepare Ellie for a procedure that will allow them to synthesize a vaccine. But the lead surgeon on the team, Jerry Anderson, breaks some difficult news to Marlene. Given the nature of Ellie's infection, the procedure will allow them to create the vaccine effectively, but Ellie won't survive the process. Marlene is horrified, but considering the whole of humanity is at stake, she gives the go-ahead. Ellie is given an anesthetic and prepped for surgery. Meanwhile, Marlene delivers the bad news to Joel, telling him that nothing can be done. She gets one of her Firefly soldiers to escort Joel out of the building as the surgery is about to begin, with the instruction to shoot him dead if he tries to resist. But things go sideways quickly. Joel disarms the soldier and kills him before becoming a one-man roaring rampage of revenge. He slaughters his way through multiple levels of Firefly soldiers until he reaches the room where the surgery is about to take place. Dr. Andrews grabs a scalpel and pleads with Joel to reconsider, saying that all of humanity is on the line here. But Joel, blinded by his affection for Ellie and not wanting to lose another daughter, kills Dr. Andrews and saves the unconscious Ellie. On the way back to the car, he encounters one more obstacle, Marlene herself, holding him at gunpoint, devastated at the violence that is unfolded. But Joel is beyond the point of listening. He shoots Marlene, leaving no witnesses, or at least so he thinks, to what unfolded today. Sometime later, Ellie wakes back up wondering what happened and asking if the procedure was a success. In order to save her feelings, Joel lies to her, saying the Fireflies realize that finding a cure is impossible and they've simply given up. Ellie is skeptical of Joel's story, but Joel insists it's the truth. They can live life however they want now, having no idea of the further horrors coming down the tracks toward them.